Uncharted territory. It is a very peculiar time in America, and I am not going to even front about it. We should all be concerned about what is happening in our country with these shootings and more, but mostly about our leadership. And so what I would like to do is get things started off now. Welcome to the program. I am your happy healer for president, Keith Landi. What you're looking behind me is a debate that I had going on. It was a mock debate between me and your Mayor Pete. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be putting it to these guys, and I'm going to be showing you what it looks like. Even though I'm not on the stage, you will get an idea of what it will look like when I am, because I will make sure you know that is my job to do that, and I won't let you down. Aside from that, folks, we're going to get things started off here. I want to snap things right into action. Let's snap into action. It's time to turn up the heat on this, and we are making a life worth living. Yeah, I'll be quitting smoking soon, but until then, let's snap into action.
Who do you think are the candidates you are aware of best would provide unity and take on these issues that make life worth living? Because you're not aware of me at the moment. I hope you become aware of me, because I'm working so hard to make a difference for ordinary Americans. God bless you, and God bless America too.
Let's snap into action. It's time to turn up the heat on this, and we are making a life worth living. Yeah, I'll be quitting smoking soon, but until then, let's snap into action.
Who do you think of the candidates you are aware of best would provide unity and take on these issues that make life worth living? Because you're not aware of me at the moment. I hope you become aware of me.
All right, folks, welcome back. And so today's date is August 6, 2019. I'm Keith Landi, your happy healer for president. We are so serious in this time about the different things that we are facing, the threats. We have shootings happening every day. We have people that are in despair, and all that we can be focused on is our imperfections, the differences between Americans. We already knew that we are imperfect, but yet then we look at our candidates and we say, you need to be perfect. So one thing I'm going to tell you about these perfect candidates is that they are not. That you and I are just as well qualified to become the next president of the United States as any of them. And that's why I approach you in this hour of America's greatest need and say to you, right now, it is time to put forward a candidate that gets the American experience, the purity of the American experience, and understands that in this time, if we fail to do that, we will all pay that price, and it's a price way too high for us to pay, one that most of us are not willing to bear. So what you have are these people that are so in despair that they're being ignored. They see it all the time happening all around us, and they don't need to be told that they don't matter. They hear it every single time that they see their freedoms going out the drain. They just know it's so true. And every single time they know that they should matter and that they should have the needs and the necessities that life requires in the richest country in the world, that many of these folks have had their parents working for ages, working for just these kinds of progression and policies that we are not seeing enacted in our country, and it's killing the American spirit. Well, that ends with a happy healer presidency. And let me talk about something else. We are on these school shootings today. Donald Trump was just out yesterday talking about what he is going to do in America. And I am concerned about this. Prior to yesterday, I have always said that I promised my Trump folks, I said, and this is the deal, if we fail to make it, then we'll go back to Trump, because as so far as I could see up and until yesterday, he was the only one that was protecting certain freedoms. Well, that's out the door now, and we could just let that go, because Donald Trump is no longer that person. He is actually coming directly for your freedoms. He is coming for your freedom on the internet. He is coming for your freedom with the Second Amendment, and he's not stopping there. He wants to decide who's got the mental capacity to be able to hold weapons, and further, if you don't have that mental capacity, him and the people he chooses get to decide who are lacking that mental capacity. Think about it. And further, those who lack it, he wants to be able to have a quick due process. He says due process. I don't know how much he means by that, because he says it needs to be an expedited due process, as where at the end of that due process, you lose your freedom if you are deemed to be his, well, the way I see it, enemy. And it's not the first time we've seen such crazy enacted policies during times of national peril in countries' histories. In 1933, Germany had the Reichstag fire, and it caused an uproar, and it was the thing that Hitler used in order to make a decree that stopped all civil rights. It stopped freedom of speech in Germany in 1933. It is ultimately what led to World War II, and ultimately what led to Hitler gaining dictatorial powers in his country. Don't you know that this sounds a lot just like that? And there are so many Trump people that are backing Trump. Just today I spoke to one and I said, you are lusting with drunk lust, energy, envy for this man you are supporting, and you are not putting America first when you do that. And people like me, we're not going to let you get away with it. We're going to call your shame out when we see it. We're going to say it's shame, and we're going to hold you to account because you're screwing with our freedoms, and we don't appreciate that too much. So understand that right off the bat. Understand what you're doing to this country when you do it, that we're not going to stand for it. There is something between you and the insanity that Trump has, and it's your happy healer. And guess what else? All the Democrats, they're no better. Each one of them have already been going after your freedoms. It's unacceptable, especially in a world where we're not putting humanity above capitalism. That is the problem. Folks, we don't value humanity in this country. All we know how to do is take our freedoms away. The last 20 years, it seems like it's all we do. And we have to get back to trusting in humanity, realizing that it was the American exceptionalism that gave us all of these great things to start with, and that if we get away from that, there won't be anything left to save. Trump economics, great numbers without a heart. That doesn't work. Okay, folks, we're going to get right into this. I don't want to waste a moment. This up next is your president, Donald Trump. Some of you, like me, voted him into office. We had our reasoning. It was about being nimble in the moment, knowing what we had to do, which was to throw a wrench into the system. I really don't believe Hillary Clinton would have been a better president at all. In fact, I think she would be worse in different ways. We are not here to talk about 2016. Let's stay focused on the ball. Right now, we are moving towards 2020. And if we don't get it right, this might be the end of our country. Take it seriously. If you haven't been involved before, now's the time to get involved. Because your rights and your freedoms are at stake like never before. We have to be serious about that. We have to be serious in our time about the real threats that we face if we are ever to be realistic in solving and meeting the threats. Those threats are so numerous. And if you've watched my show, you already know what many of them are. And while we're having our soft civil war that's turning hard every day, in fact, I argue many of these shootings that we're experiencing, the mass shootings, this is our civil war opening follies, the opening strikes to a battle soon to come. And we just have to be realistic in the fact that we don't need that. That peace is the way, in unity. And with your happy healer, because my supporters already comprise of people on both sides of the aisle, that we will actually accomplish what these guys fail to do. What they consistently do is put us in unsafe predicaments, and they expect to be rewarded with power doing that. What they've only succeeded in doing is now having their happy healer, who was before just happy healing and being happy, now running for president of the United States and also still being happy and teaching others how to do that. So let's all empower each other, empower our lives, realize that freedom is the way, and realize that we can do it together. Folks, next up, Donald Trump, your president, mine too, and he's talking about taking our freedoms. We better all take that very seriously.
A wicked man went to a Walmart store where families were shopping with their loved ones. He shot and murdered 20 people and injured 26 others, including precious little children. Then, in the early hours of Sunday morning, Dayton, Ohio, another twisted monster opened fire on a crowded downtown street. He murdered 9 people, including his own sister, and injured 27 others. The First Lady and I join all Americans in praying and grieving for the victims, their families. A wicked man went to a Walmart store where families were shopping with their loved ones. He shot and murdered 20 people and injured 26 others, including precious little children. Then, in the early hours of Sunday morning, Dayton, Ohio, another twisted monster opened fire on a crowded downtown street. He murdered 9 people, including his own sister, and injured 27 others. The First Lady and I join all Americans in praying and grieving for the victims, their families, and the survivors. These barbaric slaughters are an assault upon our communities, an attack upon our nation, and a crime against all of humanity.
What is that problem? Can you even put your finger on it, Donald Trump? I am Keith Landi, your happy healer for president, and I am dead serious, just as all of us are on this issue, except for I see what the problem exactly is. I approach that problem with humility, and I know that dealing with that problem is going to take courage, and I'm ready to deal with the problem in a way that will actually deals with the problem that's causing it, the underlying problem, the problem of humanity. What is that problem? Can you even put your finger on it? Your happy healer can. That is the question, and I really don't think that you can based on the answers that you are giving us. This sounds like you're just giving in to the times that you feel that you need to give in to, but rather that this issue will take a real leader, somebody who's not just going to turn on the freedoms the very moment times get tough, but rather instead deals precisely with the issue at hand, deals with the problem that's causing it, the underlying problem, the problem of humanity. And your fixes are scary, sir. They are scary because when you put your hand on the real problem, which is lack of freedoms, which is lack of people mattering in this society, when you put your hand on the real problem and you can actually touch it, you know that it's greed. You know it. You know it with all of your heart that it's greed. And all you do is do everything but fix that. They say that Americans are great at trying everything before doing the final thing that actually solves the issue. But here's the problem with this one, my fellow Americans. If we don't address the problem that is causing mass shootings, it's not the only area we suffer, for the mass shootings are just a symptom of a greater issue. That greater issue is also affecting many other things. Greed. That greed is causing humanity to lose itself. It's the reason for our civil war. Folks, we are in a civil war. What you are acknowledging happening now are the opening follies of that civil war. It's only going to get worse. Mark it on your calendar, the day that happy healer Keith Landi has told you the truth, because times are not going to get easier, and the more you take rights from the humanity in America and you lack to put humanity above that greed, above capitalism, taking care of their rights as human beings, taking care of their needs as human beings in 2019, it is the only way to go in the age of robotics and artificial intelligence. It's already upon us, and you do everything but address the actual problem. That is why we have scary times ahead, but it doesn't need to be like that, sir. Taking more rights away from the American people is not the way to answer the grave threats of our time. Indeed, that is how we race into scarier times.
We are outraged and sickened by this monstrous evil, the cruelty, the hatred, the malice, the bloodshed, and the terror. Our hearts are shattered for every family whose parents, children, husbands, and wives were ripped from their arms and their lives. America weeps for the fallen. We are a loving nation, and our children are entitled to grow up in a just, peaceful, and loving society. Together, we lock arms to shoulder the grief. We ask God in heaven to ease the anguish of those who suffer, and we vow to act with urgent resolve. I want to thank the many law enforcement personnel who responded to these atrocities with the extraordinary grace and courage of American heroes. Terrible, terrible thing. The shooter in El Paso posted a manifesto online consumed by racist hate. In one voice, our nation must condemn racism, bigotry, and white supremacy. These sinister ideologies must be defeated. Hate has no place in America. Hatred warps the mind, ravages the heart, and devours the soul.
But President Trump, you should know all about that hate. It's you who stokes that hate when it works for you. And then when problems happen, you want to step away from it and say that that's the problem, that we're all just hating too much. Remember, folks, it's Donald Trump who wins in the hate the most. And we just can't be forgetful of that fact. If we want to get away from the hate, the way to do that is to start acting with love and to put humanity above capitalism, to actually address the issue why people feel like they don't matter in America. And if you don't give people a reason for living, well, unfortunately then this is what comes out of not mattering. People, they really act out when they feel like they don't matter. And so many people in America are feeling like they don't matter right now. It's so sad. It doesn't have to be that way.
We have asked the FBI to identify all further resources they need to investigate and disrupt hate crimes and domestic terrorism, whatever they need.
Whatever they need. So I hope you understand what that means. That means Donald Trump is unleashing the American legal system on the American individual, because we are now considered terrorists. Any one of us could be a mass terrorist, especially if you are white, even if you are a kind, loving individual, that your freedom of speech can be considered terrorism and that you will be punished accordingly. Remember, all of that comes with going against American freedoms, and it doesn't solve the real issue, which is the greed, which is the American does not matter, more so now than ever before. And think about it, if they did not matter before and they are mattering less now, that only makes the breeding ground for terrorism in America that much greater. And I contend that moving forward, and it is by no fault of anyone that is not in power and has been controlling the laws of our country, instead, it is the American spirit. I contend she is so sick and has been ignored for so long, and that if we continue doing this and going down this road and this path, it leads to more destruction, and it leads to an America where all of us are less safe. And so instead of fixing the actual problem, of course they just go after what for them is easier to do, and that is to take more rights away from us, the people. And so that is supposed to fix the problem. We're never supposed to actually trust each other, just take more freedoms away from each other. And you have been seeing so much of that. It's been going on for so long. And Trump, he's no different. Many of us have felt that he would be the different one, and he is just giving in, doing the wrong thing. Humanity has never mattered less in America than now. And this has been a problem for a long time.
We must recognize that the internet has provided a dangerous avenue to radicalize disturbed minds and perform demented acts. We must shine light on the dark recesses of the internet and stop mass murders before they start.
So if it wasn't enough that our freedoms are already under attack by this president in so many ways, we also get to lose our freedom of internet. You know, I take my freedom of speech very seriously, and, well, it'll soon be that the American can't even speak freely and openly online. You can't speak freely and openly. You can't express yourself. You can't talk. Safe spaces have made it impossible to talk. You can't address issues that we're all dealing with. The elephant in the room just has to remain the quiet subject, and you expect things to go well. I don't see it like that. I'm sorry, I don't see it like that. I see it that we are headed in towards the times that we could never imagine in America, no matter what the intentions are. The effect? It reminds me as if National Socialism Germany has just arrived on America's doorstep. We already knew in many ways that it was already here with the Democratic Party, but now it is here with the Republican Party as well through Trump. And while many of us have already known that, now you do too. And while I am running as a Democrat because I believe in health care for all, and income for all, and education that starts young and never ends, and in happiness, and to build up the human character and value, and to be able to build happiness in humanity, to be able to lift us up in the right way, and to subdue all of the hell that we have been going through. They don't listen to that. Instead, they're taking us down this path. remember, mark my words, it doesn't fix anything. That's the problem. It just doesn't fix anything. These problems will continue. Remember, how dare they do that to us? It's like this. Remember, it only took box cutters and 12 men who did not speak with an American dialect, who were not Americans, that caused 9/11, where thousands died, and by far the most egregious terrorist attack on American land. And yet, we seem to have learned nothing. After that attack, it was called upon Americans to be themselves, and to be strong, and to continue shopping, and to continue being Americans. And who would think that 18 years later that we would be against the very ideals that makes America America? The freedoms that indeed keeps us safe and keeps us whole. That is America, and we have gotten away from that for some time now. And to get further away from that only spells doom for our people. And we have to be careful, folks. Some people want this.
The internet likewise is used for human trafficking, illegal drug distribution, and so many other heinous crimes. The perils of the internet and social media cannot be ignored, and they will not be ignored. In the 2 decades since Columbine, our nation has watched with rising horror and dread as one mass shooting has followed another, over and over again, decade after decade.
That's right, decade after decade, and all we ever had to do was take care of the American people and put stock in them, and to show the humanity in America, the richest country in the world, the American exceptionalism that is every day eroding. Just invest in them, and we have failed to do that. We have virtually invested in every other aspect of America. America corporatism. They're billionaires, but not the American people. And they are the ones who encompass the American spirit, as well as the American exceptionalism that you are eroding. So stop that, please. We can do so much better, and we will under a happy healer presidency. And if times like now have not showed you that we need a happy healer for this country, well, perhaps future times when this continues to happen in our country like it has been happening will even make that more clear, because we need a happy healer in these grave times of America. We need to show that love matters and that greed can just go away.
We cannot allow ourselves to feel powerless. We can and will stop this evil contagion. In that task, we must honor the sacred memory of those we have lost by acting as one people. Open wounds cannot heal if we are divided.
I agree. That is why we need unity. That is why I have been talking about unity from day one in my campaign, and I have a plan to achieve it. You better believe it, because when you put humanity above capitalism, and when your very nature of running is all about bringing this country together, then you know that you're about unity. The kind of unity that you, sir, will never be able to provide the people, because you have already alienated half of America's people. Do you see how these kinds of shootings under your leadership, sir, will only continue to develop and even get worse? And not just shootings, but all kinds of death and despair. And the sad part is that no matter which Democrat you're talking about, other than yours truly, it's the same problem. It's either one side or it's the other. It's the trap that they intended for us to be in, that we are currently in. But with your happy healer for president, we get away from all of that and we go for unity in the way that matters the most. We have supporters on the right, supporters on the left, and that's something I have always been so proud of. We will continue to get supporters on both sides, because we are your unity campaign. I am your unity candidate, and this country needs unity, and it needs a happy healer for president. So you better believe that when we campaign and we run our campaign in a way that brings unity to America and makes it real for our people, well then that's how it serves our people, doesn't it? The very unity that has forsaken us under this leadership, under the leadership of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, all are in it together, and it seems to be aligned against the American individual. And in our campaign, we are doing it differently. You put forward your happy healer, and we'll do different than any other campaign has done before. We will put humanity above capitalism, and we will fix the issue. That's right, we will fix the issue instead of just take away more freedoms. We can't just keep taking away our freedoms and expect good things to come out of that, especially in the United States of America. And take it from your happy healer, I am right here with you, getting the first-hand view of the experience of their leadership dealt upon the American people. And you better believe that it's going to take the purity of somebody who understands the American experience, and it is not not President Trump. Nor is it any of these Democrats. It is your happy healer for president. Some of you already know that, and I admire that you understand that it will take somebody from the American experience in the truest sense of the word in order to navigate our entire country out of this mess. Trust in your happy healer, folks. And if it was not for the fact that these times seriously require in the leadership the same ingenuity that the American people have had for all of this time. Let's get to work for the American people. As Todd Beamer said in 9/11, he was the hero then. Let's roll. Well, I say it now. Let's roll. And let's not take away American freedoms. Let's be bold in the moment. And let's actually address the issue. The elephant in the room. The thing nobody wants to touch. But we must. And I contend we must. The American greed.
We must seek real bipartisan solutions. We have to do that in a bipartisan manner that will truly make America safer and better for all. First, we must do a better job of identifying and acting on early warning signs. I am directing the Department of Justice to work in partnership with local, state, and federal agencies, as well as social media companies, to develop tools that can detect mass shooters before they strike.
Did you hear that?
To develop tools that can detect mass shooters before they strike.
Because we're getting crazy. Did you hear that? He just said that we have to get with the companies like Facebook and Google. They've already decided who gets free speech. These are your technology companies that they have to now decide. They have already decided who gets the free speech, and if that is not enough, now they get to decide who is going to be the next terrorist, like Minority Report. It's almost like they are now trying to play futuristic games on the American people, tell them who are going to be the terrorists in advance based on algorithms, based on technology. This is a dangerous idea, and it's from your hero, Donald Trump. Some of you call him your hero. You think that he is going to solve all of our problems, and I just know it's not true. I just know it's not true. We are going to be in this all alone. Just a lone American who has been so responsible for all of the American ingenuity, all of the American success that we have experienced, and now that poor American soul is going to be cracked on even harder for longer, and we just don't ever touch on the issue that really is causing the problems in the American psyche. Instead, we just take away freedoms. Every time we just take away freedoms. It's not right. And I would never trust Facebook or Google to decide who is going to be the next terrorist. These guys? No way.
As an example, the monster in the Parkland High School in Florida had many red flags against him, and yet nobody took decisive action. Nobody did anything. Why not? Second, we must stop the glorification of violence in our society. This includes the gruesome and grisly video games that are now commonplace. It is too easy today for troubled youth to surround themselves with a culture that celebrates violence. We must stop or substantially reduce this, and it has to begin immediately.
My fellow Americans, are you hearing what I am hearing? My fellow Americans, are you hearing what I'm hearing? He's talking about we have to now substantially stop or reduce the violence in video games. This goes directly to your freedoms, and if you don't see that, then you don't deserve to have them. You have a choice in this election. We can either address the issue that is really causing all of these problems, or we can be weak and we can ignore the elephant in the room, that it is greed, that these people that are acting this way, they are actually screaming out. We live in a world where we don't matter. We all know it's true. We have to start mattering, and we have to start caring about one another, and we have to write it into our laws. And for Donald Trump to act so weak now, we know it's weakness he's acting out of, because strength wouldn't allow this kind of action.
Cultural change is hard, but each of us can choose to build a culture that celebrates the inherent worth and dignity of every human life. That's what we have to do. Third, we must reform our mental health laws to better identify mentally disturbed individuals.
Oh yeah, and what if it's just individuals who are disturbed by the actions they see in this country that is not serving the humanity? And, well, are they also going to be then classified as mentally disturbed?
Who may commit acts of violence, and make sure those people not only get treatment, but when necessary, involuntary confinement.
Oh, there it is. So the answer is yes then. Good. Thank you for answering that.
Mental illness and hatred pulls the trigger, not the gun.
Think about that. Mental illness and hatred pulls the trigger, not the gun, but yet it is he and the people he puts forth that decides who has the mental illness. It's very comforting to know that. And that when they decide you have this mental illness, that they want to be able to lock you up. Wow, now we're really seeing the Donald Trump that, well, many of us knew was in there just, well, coming out now, don't we? And the Democrats don't offer a better solution on this at all. They have already been going down this road for quite a while. And we have to really err with caution on this issue, my American brothers and sisters. We love our freedoms. We wouldn't recognize this country anymore if we let these guys continue to go in this direction. So I implore upon you, support your happy healer for president. I'm not running just because I want your power. I could care less! Give it to somebody else if it was just for that. But it's because we have grave issues in our time, and we have to answer those issues. And they don't want to recognize that every time they discount the American dream, they discount the American exceptionalism, and they discount the American, the individual, that they cause these problems. Because that American individual expects so much more at this time in life because we deserve it. We know it. The American exceptionalism. We have to put humanity above capitalism, folks. I keep saying this because it's so true. And because that's how you put into law that humanity matters. And that you just show it every day. And what this country needs right now is a happy healer. I am that happy healer for president, and I implore upon you to think about our freedoms, to think about our future. And when you do, consider what all of the candidates are offering, myself included. And you can find out more at www.happyhealerforpresident.com, and that's an FOR, and you compare us. What are we talking about? Where do we stand on the issues? What have we been saying this whole time? And then you decide who is most on truth, who can best serve the American people in this grave time of need, and then you decide whether a happy healer is what this country needs, as I contend it is, or whether what we need is less trust, less freedoms, more hate, because that's what they offer. How far be it for Donald Trump to talk about this country needing less hate? He is the hate monger. And all of the Democrats are also hate mongering. They're following him right down the path of hate. He wins in that path, but your happy healer takes it to a path of love and strength. And that's why we are going to win. And that's why I am going to be your next president. And that is also why we get to keep our freedoms and address the issues head on, exactly what they are.
Fourth, we must make sure that those judged to pose a grave risk to public safety do not have access to firearms, and that if they do, those firearms can be taken through rapid due process. That is why I have called for red flag laws, also known as extreme risk protection orders. Today, I'm also directing the Department of Justice to propose legislation ensuring that those who commit hate crimes and mass murders face the death penalty, and that this capital punishment be delivered quickly, decisively, and without years of needless delay. These are just a few of the areas of cooperation that we can pursue. I am open and ready to listen and discuss all ideas that will actually work and make a very big difference. Republicans and Democrats have proven that we can join together in a bipartisan fashion to address this plague. Last year, we enacted the Stop School Violence and Fix NICS Acts into law, providing grants to improve school safety and strengthening critical background checks for firearm purchases. At my direction, the Department of Justice banned bump stocks. Last year, we prosecuted a record number of firearms offenses. But there is so much more that we have to do. Now is the time to set destructive partisanship aside, so destructive, and find the courage to answer hatred with unity, devotion, and love. Our future is in our control. America will rise to the challenge. We will always have, and we always will, win. The choice is ours. and ours alone. It is not up to mentally ill monsters. It is up to us. If we are able to pass great legislation after all of these years, we will ensure that those who were attacked will not have died in vain. May God bless the memory of those who perished in Toledo. May God protect them. May God protect all of those from Texas to Ohio. May God bless the victims and their families. May God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Whenever Trump says rapid due process, I want you to think of the fire and the Reichstag. It was in 1934. And this is when Hitler had his decree that took away all freedoms. So I just want you to keep that in mind, and that it's always the fear that caused people to go away from their freedoms. We have learned through history that when one trades freedom for security, they end up with neither freedom nor security. So please follow our campaign. There is another way. We have pinpointed the problem for this issue and so many others. This is just the beginning. We are going to solve the problem because we know that it is not guns. If it was guns, it would have been going on for so much longer. America has been a gun-wielding nation for a long time. However, these mass shootings are a relative new phenomena in the American experience. The reason they are happening is because humanity doesn't matter anymore, and that people just feel that, and they have nothing else to lose. I've been talking about this for so long as your happy healer, and now it is just coming true. We have to have people that are courageous, that put their finger on the problem and don't do other things to make the American experience even worse. Because what comes out of that is not the solution for these problems. That wrong stuff they're doing is just going to go bad, and the fact is that won't go away. Once they take these freedoms, they don't come back, and the problem still persists so that they take more freedoms. And should they take enough of our freedoms? Well, many people feel already we don't have a life worth living. I'm fearful to say what will come out of it. And should the American people become so subdued that through taking freedoms they solve these issues, what will that American society look like? Surely not one your happy healer wants. And, well, it's starting to look a lot more like Nazi Germany in America. It doesn't have to be this way, folks. I just wish we could all come together and do what was right in the time that it is right to do it. Now is that time. Come together and let's do this for America. She is hurting. She is in pain. Dig deep now. And let's together fight for a future worth living. Okay, folks, and that's it. I'd like this opportunity to be able to show the differences between what Donald Trump is currently doing and how he is reacting to this tragedy, the multiple tragedies. The tragedy in general of the shootings around America has been just a larger symptom of the overall tragedy in America, that the individual has lost its value. And so we have to get back to taking care of humanity like we had never had before, really, and to do it right. And it's going to take a happy healer to get that work done. So let's get serious about who we put in power so that we can get that work done. God bless you, and may God bless our great country too, especially our freedoms in this time.
Hi, folks. Welcome back. This is live. I'm your happy healer. Time now is 8:18 a.m. We are striking forward, focused on what matters. Always remember that. Sometimes it's beautiful stuff, and sometimes it's just realistic stuff. It's hard knocks. And those hard knocks just have to be talked about as well. It's scary times. And if we don't talk about the realistic aspect in life and the pursuit of liberty, the pursuit of prosperity is not all just about greed. It's not the way forward. It really isn't. We've seen it at work. And we've seen what it's doing to our soul. It's ugly. I don't even want to be involved in it, really. It's just so ugly. And so many people are the same way. And they're becoming distraught. Can you not tell? So many of you are in your own bubbles. You're happy with the situation. You're so thrilled. And let me tell you, it's actually really ugly that you're thrilled with what's going on. And those of us who can see, and we see so clearly, and we see how thrilled you are, and they're just told they don't matter. So just think about what that does to the human psyche, and think about what is to come. And that's what I am looking at. I wish for better times with all of my heart, and I wish it didn't take myself having to step up and run for president in order to have that, and then to have to be pushed against the wall and say, well, if you don't win, the likelihood is no matter what Democrat gets in there, or Trump himself, he's already shown it, he already said it, then you know how real the times are. And that's why you have your happy healer running for president, which is ultimately a great thing, let me tell you, because having a happy healer for a president is a wonderful opportunity to get this country not just going in the right direction, but really deal with depression and the hard, difficult times that we are facing. One of the issues that we are going to move fast forward and moving directly on and talking about is the opiate addiction crisis, the drug addiction crisis in general in this country, and Florida has been ground zero to that. So we'll be talking about that in future episodes as we move along, because it's so important to the human psyche and some of the issues that we really have to just get serious about, because people are dying, they're losing their sanity, and the first thing they run to is drugs. But drugs aren't the answer, folks. And neither is this crap they're putting us in. That's not the answer either. What is the answer is a happy, healthy, vibrant life of loving people who recognize that there is a life worth living, that serving each other is just like serving God, and that when we use love in order to achieve all of that, we get everything we want and more, and more. And having your happy healer forward, guys, I'm going to be so honest with you in the moment. I'll always be that way. It's so sad what's happening to the American spirit. It's so sad what we do to each other. I mean, put somebody forward that understands that. Put somebody forward that feels that, and that gets you, that live that with you. Understand, we need people who care. It's the only way we're going to be able to get out of this crisis. And these guys, they don't have the capacity to care. Don't you know that? They don't care. They'll never care. That's why we have to get in there, and we have to make a difference for ourselves if we intend to see these changes ever happen for us. You know, we are in those times now. Don't ever expect these guys to get emotional or care about you. They're not going to do it. They're all fake. They all care about their own success. There's not a bone in their body that is doing this for you. Just know that. I'll see you guys soon. God bless.